Overwatch 2 Invasion story missions pulled a marvel on us, with a post-credit scene that teases things to come. But what is that exactly? Let's have a look. Hey guys and dames from the Omnic Post. It has been almost 3 weeks since the first ever story missions were added to Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2 Invasion set us up for the invasion. Are going to be spoilers in this video. If you have not played the missions yet, don't watch this video. Or do. I'm not your dad. Just know that I'm going to be talking about the lore in those videos. Alright. Several cities all over the globe are getting invaded by a group of rebellions or even terrorists that call themselves Null Sector. And this group is led by none other than Ramatra. Interestingly enough, in these first missions that we got to play, all the fighting is being done by robots and drones, not by Omnics. The members of Null Sector are being smart cookies by building themselves an army, probably in one of the Omniums they took over. And they're sending them in as a first wave, hitting cities all over the globe. If you have actually played the missions, you know that this is a mere diversion. Something else is afoot. Null Sector, for instance, seems to be kidnapping Omnics and slapping these weird-ass VR helmets on top of their head that seem to put their processing on hold. According to what Tourbillon later shares in the logs, they're not hurting. They just seem to be in some type of standby mode. Question is, why? What is Ramatra planning to do with all of these Omnics? Is he running backups? Is he trying to safeguard them? Is he turning them into a hive mind? Is he trying to find Aurora or reverse engineer the Iris? There are so many options here, especially if you keep in mind my personal tinfoil hat theory that Anubis, the god program, is behind all of this. It might not be an attack on humanity, but on the Iris. Yeah, Anubis just wants its kids back. There's so much to say about Ramatra's possible motivations and plans, so I'm going to make a separate video on this topic in a few weeks. Because today I want to talk about the post-credit scene. That final moment before we saw the Overwatch logo appear. And we were all wagging our fists at the screen because we realized that we would have to wait till 2024 to know what happens next. This is the scene. The first part is something we already knew from the Ramatra origin story and from a short story that was released. Ramatra and Zenyatta were both Shambali monks. They joined the order somewhere close to each other. But Ramatra ended up choosing a different path for several reasons. But he'll always have a special place in his heart, in his processor for Zenyatta, who he considers a brother. And it seems that the leader of the Shambali monks, Mondara, felt somewhat inspired by Ramatra's move. So he stepped out of the monastery himself and he got killed by Widowmaker in London. Yeah, that's what you get when you start touching grass. At the end of that, we kind of switch to today and we see Zenyatta meditating in what you would think would be the Shambali monastery, but it's not. It is actually Suravasa. Apart from the architecture, there's the lotus flowers. Those are typical Indian. And it makes sense that it is in Suravasa. It was one of the places that Aurora visited in her pilgrimage. There's actually the whole mural that is dedicated to her and there is a big Aurora statue. And it also connects the dots for some stuff in the future, but more about that in a second. Back to Zenyatta because he's getting interrupted by Sombra and Widowmaker. They're sneaking up on him and Widowmaker notifies someone, which most likely is Doomfist, that they found him, after which we got that end screen. Cheeky buggers. But what is this all about? Why were they looking for Zenyatta? Are they planning to kidnap him? I want to go back to the second mission, the one set in Toronto. If you paid attention to the cinematics at the end, you might have noticed that small interaction between Genji and Mercy, where she asks, "What is wrong, Genji?" And he answers that there's more to these attacks. Something we had figured out. Good on us. And that he needs to talk to his master Zenyatta as he thinks he might know more about this. And then you see this almost hypnotizing message with Ramatra's voice inviting everybody to join the Iris, while inviting all the Omnics. There's a lot to unpack. It confirms the idea that Ramatra is trying to distract Overwatch with these attacks, which would explain why he's only using the drones and the robots and not Omnics. And the reason why Genji thinks that Zenyatta might know more about all of this is the same reason that Sombra and Widow are there, sneaking up on that floating monk. So what I think might be happening is that our heroes, led by Genji, will arrive in Suravasa right at the time that Widow and Sombra are trying to throw him into a white van. Well, we already know that that is going to happen, because during BlizzCon Online in 2021, they showed this. Yeah, that's pretty clear. That is going to be one of the next missions. But there are still a few questions. Why does Talon want Zenyatta? Is Ramatra behind all of this? Is he the one that is looking for Zenyatta? Back in Storm Rising, he struck a deal with Doomfist and Talon. They clearly have a strategic partnership. Now, personally, I don't think Ramatra would use Talon to get in touch with Zenyatta. I mean, he considers him his brother. I do think they have each other's number, and that if he had a beef or a question for Zenyatta, he would just step up to him. On the other hand, Ramatra did hold his previous master, Mondatta, hostage at some point, and he might actually have allowed Talon to kill his former master. I do think it's different, because he did not agree with Mondatta. Zenyatta, again, he considers him his brother, it's his best friend. So I think it's different. In any case, whoever decided to send in Sombra and Widowmaker to get Zenyatta did so because Zenyatta knows something. He has some information that is critical to whoever sent them in. See, back in Shambali, after Ramatra left, Mondatta himself left the monastery in hopes of bartering a deal between the humans and the Omnics. He most likely made that decision because he was aware of the possible harm that Ramatra could do. But as you can clearly see, both him and Zenyatta knew that there was a risk involved. A risk Mondatta was willing to take, but I don't know if he just blindly walked into a trap. I think he might have been well prepared. He might have known that Talon was going to try and strike at him. What if Mondatta did not die that evening, and Zenyatta knows where he is? I mean, we've all seen those sprays on certain maps, I think mainly Toronto, that state Mondatta lives. I've always considered them more of a spiritual thing, as if the spirit of Mondatta, his ideas, still lived among the people. Thing is, Mondatta could not have pulled this off by himself. And it sure as hell wasn't Overwatch that helped him. By then they were basically closed down. He might actually be part of the conspiracy, or the Eye, as they call it. I'm going to do a whole separate video on the Eye and that whole conspiracy thing. But that is basically what Sombra is obsessed with. We all know that she has a hidden agenda, and that hidden agenda is trying to find out who is behind the Eye, who is involved, and what they want to do. So it might not be a coincidence that she's present right there to fetch Zenyatta. She might have tried to convince Doomfist to let her go on the mission, and he might oblige because he's aware of her hidden agenda and he wants to kind of smoke her out. Villain politics, man, they're complicated. It's a really tough career. I wouldn't know, of course. Come on. But if there's a rumor going around that Mondatta still lives, that could be a reason to try and kidnap his prime pupil. And I guess we'll find out next year. I hope we'll find out next year. But tell me, what do you think? Why are they after Zenyatta? And does Mondatta still live? Let me know in the comments. Join me during my streams on twitch.tv/DamesAceTV and make sure to subscribe for more updates on Overwatch.